Hey guys, so this is the first part of your um, video for the review packet. That's the chart. There's a little like camera of me in the corner, and I don't know if this is going to keep going. Um, so if I make weird faces, sorry. So first up is Mesopotamia. For geography, we know that Mesopotamia is located where Iraq is today in the Middle East. Remember, it's called the land between two rivers, and those two rivers were the Tigris and the Euphrates. It's a part of the Fertile Crescent because the land, because of the rivers, was so rich, the soil was so rich, and that was the key to their life and success as a civilization. Table moved. When it came to religion, they were polytheistic. We talked about them building the ziggurats as their place to worship their gods. It was thought that a god or goddess was assigned to the empire to protect it, and they were important because they helped deal with daily life things. Achievements. Inventions in Sumer were known for their agricultural society. Remember, that created a surplus of food. The wheel allowed them to create the plow and the cart for farming and trading, and then cuneiform was their first writing form. In Babylonia, they invented the calendar, and then Hammurabi's code, and then Assyria was trade and war. Their political system in Sumer, they were organized in city-states with their own king, and they had similar laws and punishments, each of those city-states. In Babylon, they had king, nobles, an assembly of people. King Hammurabi would write down the laws on the stone, and remember, they were put in the center of the city or town so that everybody could see them. And then in Assyria, they were a powerful military state. So they had like monarchy, theocracy. They believed that gods would communicate to the king what they wanted. There's an awareness of written law. Then you had your economic systems, and the biggest part of their economy here was trade and commerce. Because of the farmers, they learned how to irrigate their land, and so they could now grow more food than they could eat, so that allowed them to trade and sell. Social systems, due to the population rising in Mesopotamia, it was really important for them to create an order. The first system was used to create order was a division of labor. The second was a social hierarchy, which you guys are familiar with, and then independent empires made the large area of Mesopotamia easier to control. And then this is the social hierarchy that you saw. You had your king at the top, the high priests and nobles, officials, scribes, and minor priests, and then craftsmen, and then at the bottom, servants, laborers, and peasants. To Egypt. We know that Egypt is located in northeastern Africa. The Nile River runs the length of the country from south to north. The climate is really hot and dry. It's because it's a part of the Sahara Desert. And it was divided into two regions, Upper and Lower Egypt. And the Lower Egypt consisted of the Nile River Delta, and then Upper Egypt was the long, narrow strip of ancient Egypt that was located south of the Delta. With their religion, they were also polytheistic. The religion was a combination of like magic and mythology and science and medicine, and so on. And they built temples to the gods all over the kingdom. They believed in an afterlife, and they would mummify the people that they died. And then depending on where you fell in the social hierarchy, you would actually be buried inside of the pyramid as like your tomb. Their achievements were hieroglyphics. They invented papyrus, the Rosetta Stone, and then there are several important texts that included like government records, science texts, and medical manuals. And then also like their most famous literary work was the Book of the Dead. And they also created temples, pyramids, sphinx, and obelisks. Their political system, where pharaohs were kings. In the Old Kingdom, pharaohs were considered mortal living gods. In the Middle Kingdom, they represented gods on earth. Pharaoh was king and high priest, and they were obeyed. Everybody believed that everything was owned by the pharaoh and that the pharaoh would ensure happiness and health for all their people. They also had advisors to help them make decisions. Their economic system, since it was located on the Nile River, they had some of the most fertile land in the ancient world, so they grew a lot of crops, and because coins and paper money had not been invented, the economy depended on them using those goods for a bartering system. And then again, here's your social structure with the pharaoh at the top, all the way down to servants and slaves at the bottom. Mesoamerica. The Mayan Empire, remember you have the Mayas, Aztecs, and Incas. The Mayan Empire covered all of the Yucatan Peninsula, which is now modern-day Guatemala and Belize, and then even parts of Mexico, in the western part of Honduras and El Salvador. The Aztec civilization grew into what is now the central and southern regions of present-day Mexico. And then the Incas lived on a long strip of land along the western side of the South America, facing the Pacific Ocean. And this is what you can see on the map. It tells you the Aztecs are that like peach color, and then the Mayas are green and Incas yellow. For their religions, the Maya worshiped many gods. They were polytheistic, as were the Aztecs and the Incas. All three also believed in human sacrifices. So totally thought I was at the end of this video, and I was not. I have 3 or 4 more slides to go with y'all. So for the Mayan, Aztec, and Inca achievements, the Mayan achievements included large observatories for like astronomy. They developed 2 calendars, one 365 and one was a 260-day calendar. And then they're also really skilled mathematicians, and they made the number system, and they were the first people to use a symbol for 0. And they also created a writing system and amazing art. The Aztecs were really good architects and sculptors. And they also had their own calendar similar to the Mayans, and they studied astronomy as well. And then the Incas created temples they were known for being master builders. And they also produced works of art such as pottery, gold, and silver jewelry. For their political system, the Incas were ruled and by a king, and he unified the empire, and he came up with the official language for the Incas. And then the Aztecs were ruled by an emperor, and he was considered the most important person in their society. They attended to law, trade, tribute, and warfare, and they also had tax collectors, judges, and other government officials. The Mayas were also ruled by a king, and they were considered the most important person, and they held the highest position in the society as well, and they were also believed to be related to gods. All right, the economic system. For Incas, the government strictly controlled the economy and told each household what to do. Most of the time, they spent time working for the government and themselves, and many of them were farmers, soldiers, miners, and builders. And then the Mayan economy is largely based on food and agriculture. Farming was the main labor resource. Mostly, it usually consisted of men, and then the main resources available to the Inca Empire were also agricultural land and labor, and then also mines. All right, now I'm at the last slide for this one. So, very similar social structures. I included the Mayan social structure here. Again, just like always, they have the ruler at the very top all the way down to the peasants at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm done, and we'll go make your second video for Greece, Rome, and the Indus River.